Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Open Tech Innovations coming to you with a nice, simple video. Basically, I had spoken previously in a video I had created in regards to setting up and installing the Sass environment on your machine in the event that you decide you want to use the command line to pre-process your CSS into Sass or SCSS. So as I think I spoke about this in the first video, Sass is basically, it's, as it says here, CSS with superpowers. I'm not going to go into too much detail about how this is, but I'm providing a link to each resource that I'm about to show you today in the event that you decide to move forward with your setup. And be sure to read all of the documentation on each one of these resources, so that way you could better understand how it's going to help you or aid you in your development, whether it be Android or Ruby on Rails project, PHP, just whatever you're doing. All right, so let's get started. The first thing we want to do is we have to make sure that we have Node installed on our machine. And as of right now, there's two different downloads. There's the version 7, which has the latest features, and then of course version 6, limited lifetime. Basically, I think the LTS stands for lifetime. Man, I forgot what the S stood for. And I believe Ubuntu or the Linux operating systems use LTS on their machines as far as like the updates or security, lifetime security. I think it is. But anyways. So version 6 is recommended for most users, meaning that it's already been tested for various, months or years or however long it's been out. That version, I should say. So it'd probably be the best one to go with. Anyhow, I've actually installed Node on my system, so I'm not going to proceed with that. But it's pretty self-explanatory. You just download it, save it, you run it, install it, follow the instructions, and then once you have Node installed, and what we need to do is you need to open up a command prompt, because you need to make sure that it's been installed correctly. And by that, you want to make sure that you have the right version. So let me fix this here. So I believe it's node-v. All right, so I have version 6.10. which is going to be this version right here. So we're good there. I need to fix that. All right. Let's see here. Let me do something really quick. Fix my screen. So that. Alright, that's a little bit better. Just make this a little smaller. Expand this out. Cool. Alright, sorry about that. All right, so then once we have Node installed and we've verified that we have the latest version that we downloaded, the next thing we want to do is we want to run over to railsinstaller.org, and again, all of these links to these resources will be in the description box. And what we need to do is we need to grab our corresponding package related to the machine. So as of right now, there's Windows 2.2 or Ruby 2.2 and Ruby 2.3. Now, since I have been playing around with Ruby, which has probably been about 3.5-4 years now, there are some issues, I think, with the newest version. I'm not sure. So what I would do is to be on the safe side, probably grab 2.2. I don't think it'll really make a difference You could probably just grab 2.3. It's not a big deal. And you'll save it. And again, you'll run that environment. Real simple. I already have it installed. And what's interesting is Node will pick up that you're trying to install Ruby, and Ruby will also basically throw out a window letting you know to allow it to be able to run on the machine. And Ruby has its own command line interface and all that good stuff as well. So once you've done that, now on Macs, I'm not sure. I'm sure it's probably the same as far as like the install process, but I'm doing this on a Windows machine, Windows 10. So I'm going to proceed on with that. But anyhow, so once you have the Ruby environment installed, then the next thing we need to do is understand Ruby gems. And again, in the description box, rubygems.org. This is related to the Rails installer. And in here, there's a lot of things you can do. You can create your own gems. You can update. You can find your outdated gems. Oh, and real quick, let me see here. You should be able to, once you have Rails installed, you want to find out what version you have. No, it's Ruby, sorry. I believe. Yeah, it is. Okay. So Ruby-V will give you your version, which is 2.3.3. So I too have the latest version. As of right now, the revisions are 11/21/2016. There's probably an update coming out, but as of right now, I'm up to date on the Rails application. All right. So real quick, there's a variety of different resources here. There's your guides. You can contribute. It talks about all the different gems that have been created, the process for installing Ruby gems, and that is, of course, if you don't have a Rails installer environment. There's a lot of different ways that you can install gems. Like, for example, you can update the entire system. You can install Ruby gem update. You know, there's a lot of different command lines you can talk about. You know, you can get help on all your administrative and root privileges in terms of your Ruby setup. But that's kind of a little far on. That's if you're really starting to get into the Ruby environment and you're building not only gem but packages and plugins and stuff like that. And so if we come over to the gem directory, you've got a list of all these different gems, and of course it goes from A to Z. So there's a gem in just about every letter. And before you install it, you should read it. It's kind of like a plugin, basically, almost in a sense, I guess, where you're able to conduct certain types of what is the word I'm looking for? Conduct like different parts of your page as far as building it, whether it's a web app or you're trying to incorporate the Ruby language into a website, or PHP or whatever. I'm kind of new to this page here, but I'm kind of familiar with it, I should say. Like, for example, if I need to find my outdated Ruby or my gems, if I want to find the outdated ones, well, there's a command reference here, and this command reference will provide you with now this is for the 2.6.6 version. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Well, that's the Ruby version, I should say. So what I want to do is I want to locate, and I'm going to make this quick. This is going to be the last part of this tutorial. So I'm going to check for my outdated gems. So what I'll do is I'll type in gem outdated, and then I'll do local, because I just want to check my machine. There's a global reference, but I don't think it's here. Oh, there's a remote way. All right, so what has been identified is that all the gems that you see here are the ones that are installed on my system. And so, well, no, let me see here. Okay, so I've got Sass 3.4, but I don't see that in my list here. So it looks like these are just the ones that are outdated. And it looks like Sass is up to date. That's probably why it's showing. So this is a really simple way to update your Ruby gems. So like, for example, if I wanted to update bundler, which bundler is used for Ruby projects. So I would say gem update, oops, and then I would type in bundler, oops, misspelled that. Hit enter, and then Ruby will go through its process to update the gem. So it'll go out and it'll search for that update from ruby.org, or the gems, update it, fetch, install it, parse it, and then it should give me an indication that it has been installed successfully overall. It's taking a minute because Bundler has a lot of things that are for it. It's kind of like a package tool. It's almost like JSON, where you have all these different commands inside of it. It goes out and does all this searching. So even my Rails application here, or gem, it needs to be updated as well. And Rails is the main thing. That's the doing as you're using the Ruby environment, and this is taking an awfully long time. But I assure you it'll update, and once it does, then I could just go down a list. Now there's a way to update the entire system, so it would actually locate and update all of these gems for me. But sometimes if you do that, there might be a gem that's already has an update right now, and let's just say that there is an actual update. There's an actual update for the gem, and there's a possible issue with it. So if it updates the whole system, and the previous gem was fine, and then you update, actually do the update, then chances are you might throw that gem off, and then it just creates a whole problem. You don't want that. So it's probably best just to go through it. Now, if you've got a whole list, it's a lot longer than this to update, then yeah, it'd probably be best to just do a whole system update. But anyway, so for the most part, like I said, that's really how you set up a Sass environment. And once you do that, then you're able to pre-process your CSS using the command line instead of an actual application. And I forgot to mention this earlier, there's two ways to do that. There's an application version, there's a paid and open source, and it looks like CodeKit and Hammer are the only two. This is a new one actually, and so is GhostLab. These are the only two that look like they're just for Apple only. And then Compass, Koala, and Prepros are for, I believe, Apple, Windows, and Linux, it looks like. And then of course GhostLab and library load and Scout are for Windows and Mac only. So if you decide to use the application, it's pretty simple. In fact, you don't have to go through this whole setup process with Sass. It's pretty easy. But for those of you that are more advanced or intermediate in web development, prefer to use command line, this is going to be your best option. And here on this web page, again, I'm going to provide the resource to this page, to the install page for that matter. There's a Linux version, Windows, and a Mac version. And here it talks about how to install Sass. It talks about installing the gems and stuff like that, but it doesn't tell you how to set up your Rails environment. I don't think so. Okay, so for Windows, it has a link that takes you to the Ruby installer. But for Mac and for Linux, I believe it comes pre-installed through its package manager for Ruby. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, it does, see. So Ruby comes pre-installed. And I think for Linux as well. Well, you need to install Ruby first. Okay, so Linux, I don't think comes pre-installed. So Mac is the only one. So all you have to really do is open up a command line and just type in gem install Sass or gem install Bower, or whatever your gem you're going to try to install. But I encourage you to use this guide because it'll talk about all the different gems that you can install. And if we click on one, it doesn't really give you a lot of explanation, but it does have the documentation. So for example, and I'll make this quick, write usage instructions here, usage to do. Let's see here, add this line to your application's gem file. This can be done in your gem file. What's the usage? Usage is to do, write usage instructions here. I don't really understand what that means. There's probably more on GitHub. Well, there you go, I got a 404. So sometimes you're gonna have that, it's gonna happen. You're gonna have a 404 page. But I encourage you to just do your own research and figure out what course of action needs to be taken. Some of these gems are probably haven't been updated, like this one here hasn't been updated since 2014, it looks like, or that's the last version. Calculating BMI from input on keyboard and index judge using a calculation of the results. So that's what this does. This is a gem that calculates your BMI from input by keyboard. Anyways, so you kind of get the gist of what's going on here. This is to set up your Sass environment. So a real quick recap: Node.js, Rails installer, and then go over to the rubygems.org, understand the documentation guides, and then of course study up on which version of Sass, or I'm sorry, which way. Well, before you even do any of this, decide, okay, do I want to go through all this, or do I just want to grab one of these applications and let it do it for me? And in a later tutorial, I'll actually download Scout and run one of my websites that I've built and that I've done through Sass, and we'll use Scout to actually pre-process the CSS or the Sass we write into CSS instead of using the command line. So look forward to that in a later tutorial. I want to thank you very much for hanging out, and again, please feel free to comment below, subscribe to my channel, like this, share it, and I'll see you in the upcoming and next tutorial. Thank you.